Hey, babe, this is quite a setup.
It's Colonel Deering, commander of Earth's defenses.
I mean, you're in charge of all this?
That's right.
Make way for Colonel Wilma Deering. Because when this member of the Defense Directorate marched onto our screens, we sure paid attention. It was so easy to fall in love with Erin Gray's stellar performance. But how did she exactly feel about filming this demanding show? And how was her relationship with her co-star Gil Gerard? How did Erin overcome 22 years of abuse? Welcome, I am your host, Nostalgic Nick, with all these answers and more. If you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a deep dive. But now without further ado, come on and let's blast off.
I would like the opportunity to spend some time with our captain.
Who was Buck Rogers' love interest? Erin Gray came from a completely different world even before playing Wilma Deering. She got her start with modeling, easily winning local pageants, and her biggest passion was actually math. That's because she grew up in a household that loved playing games, and Erin said in an interview that she pretty much learned spelling and math by playing Scrabble. Hey, whatever gets the job done right. So she was sure she'd get a career in math. But one audition later, and she got the acting bug. Buck Rogers was definitely her big break after the film Evening in Bicentennium. But she couldn't feel too excited at the time. Bicentennium had a demanding filming schedule, and Buck Rogers was actually even worse. On top of that, Erin had just given birth and felt like she was compromising her time with her kid to film, on top of living an hour away from the studio. Then when she'd finally get there, the job was intense and tiring. Erin admitted to taking the acting aspect way too seriously. All in all, she entered one of her most famous gigs feeling terrifyingly nervous and on edge. Then enter Gil Gerard, the hero of the 25th century, and Erin's experience on the set. Erin would actually credit his good humor and encouraging attitude with putting all her nerves finally at ease. He went out of his way to assure her she could relax and lean more heavily into the humorous side of the show. He just tried to get her to drop the stress and the too high expectations. This advice made all the difference in the world, though she still made sure to give Wilma her best performance. And there are tons of fans of this show that call Erin their main reason for watching. And no, it's not all men, because Erin was a great role model for women. With this sweet connection between Erin and Gil, they worked great on screen. But did that continue when the cameras stopped? Whenever asked, the two denied any romantic involvement, with each other at least. Because at the time, Erin was married to her first husband, and Gil had just tied the knot with wife number 2, actress and producer Connie Selica. Not to say some funny business on the side couldn't have been happening, but Erin was focused on finding a work-life balance and actually being there for her firstborn. All of that already left her pretty overwhelmed as it was. But even as just friends, the two always had one another's back. In fact, when they worked together years later for Erin's company, which arranged for him to attend a convention, Gil insisted that Erin take 10% for making the team-up happen in the first place. Yeah, that's a bit of chivalry that was unfortunately a bit rare in Erin's life. Who is Erin Gray's husband? Viewers quickly fell in love with Erin Gray when she became a household name, and it's no secret Buck Rogers in the 25th century capitalized on her good looks when they designed her outfits. But Erin's Wilma also quickly stood out, especially in that first season before they toned it down. She stood out for her tough attitude, to the point where Wilma often gave Buck orders. She was as strong as she was beautiful. But for the entire time viewers enjoyed Buck Rogers, her heart belonged to another. Or so it seemed.
So your husband's a Scorpio?
Yes.
Yeah. Where'd you meet him?
High school.
Erin had been in high school when she first met Ken Schwartz. The two got married in 1968. Ken began as a successful real estate executive who uprooted from New York to LA when her acting career took off. Then he became her manager. But after 22 years, this seemingly blissful marriage dissolved, and by 1990, they split up. Unfortunately, it was just 1 year later in 1991 that Erin Gray found love again, this time with Richard Hissong, and they have been together ever since. Does Erin Gray have children? Acting wasn't supposed to be in Erin's life. It was one of those things that an audition just happened. And then she began to think, okay, I belong here. Even her rise to fame wasn't supposed to happen 2 to 3 years after becoming a mom. Her first child with Ken Schwartz was a baby boy named Kevin Ray Schwartz. Then she would have a second child, a baby girl named Samantha, the same year she got married to Richard Hissong. The time difference gave these 2 children a very different experience with the same famous mom. As Erin explained it in a 2008 interview, my son, who's 30, he grew up while I was starring in various series, so he was always on set that way. But my daughter just knows that her mom occasionally goes out and does a movie, but she's not really aware of it. So Samantha was treated to something of a normal life. In fact, things had calmed down a ton for Erin by the time Samantha grew up. When the series ended and the crew auctioned off Erin's famous tight-fitting spandex suit, it raked in so much, Erin said, quote, "I could have paid for my daughter's college education with what they sold for." Samantha would eventually become a parent too. Samantha Hissong tied the knot in 2022 to a musician named Elon Rubin. Then last summer, they welcomed a son, Zev Elliott Rubin, into the world. The cutest little bundle of hugs you ever did see. So dad's already hoping the kid gets into the world of music. Hey, rock on, little man. What happened to Erin Gray? Today, Erin Gray can say she's got it all. A career she can look back on with pride, a loving family, stable everyday life, and even after going gray. Erin says she feels no less beautiful than she did back in the 1970s. In fact, she says anyone can keep that spark alight when they get older. The only thing is, quote, "It's about being sensual." But the road to this fairy tale ending is almost unrecognizably horrible, because her first marriage was actually a waking nightmare. It started off with her marrying her high school sweetheart, but after he came back from the Vietnam War, he severely suffered from PTSD, and he changed. For 22 years, Erin endured abuse, and to cope with it, she had what's called muted senses. She explained, quote, "This is part of the reason why women have trouble getting out of domestic violence situations. There's a form of amnesia that comes in because the pain is so horrendous. If you allow that pain to go through your body, you don't know what you'll do, so you become muted and you blank out. And a couple hours later, you come out of it, and everything's just fine." It took a lot of help from loved ones and from herself for Erin to finally escape. A friend of hers finally put her foot down and got Erin to Haven House, America's very first battered woman shelter. The people there helped Erin see things from a new perspective and understand why things were happening. But horribly, this wasn't Erin's first brush with abuse. Both her father and stepfather had abused her. According to the women at the shelter, quote, "My father and stepfather had set me up for this kind of dynamic," adding, quote, "They gave me tasks. If I had a panic attack at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was to get up and write in my journal with my left hand. That helps reach your subconscious." Armed with the personal motto of, quote, "Freedom is the will to be responsible for yourself," Erin finally freed herself of that nightmare, broke the cycle, and vowed to work on helping herself and others. She promised the shelter she would be devoted to helping in any way she could, and part of her own healing process was to share her story. These days, that takes priority, and her work has reached far and wide. The enchanted life of Erin Gray was fraught with hardship, and it took help from others, as well as her inner strength, to end somewhere safe and happy. But even before she began teaching about domestic violence, she was already changing lives. Alright, that's enough of me, but now we need to hear from you. What was your favorite Erin Gray performance? Do you know her from Buck Rogers or from Silver Spoons? Have you ever met her at one of her conventions? Well, please get in the comments and tell us anything about Erin Gray. If you enjoyed our deep dive, please click that thumbs up icon. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a beat. But most importantly, from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you very much for watching.